the country's context. I think you want to have a certain level of SME policy because you want to create opportunity for those people that might be less advantaged. So if you have a lot of people who haven't had the education opportunities that all of us in this classroom have had, maybe an SME policy helps them get out there and create a living, and then maybe for the next generation they can provide the education to their children. And so if you're really trying to generate a lot of employment to reduce the unemployment rate, you also want to try to encourage high potential ventures because they generate more jobs. This last chart takes a look at women entrepreneurship. And what we see here in general is that women will tend to be higher necessity entrepreneurs than men on average. And it again varies by country. The question is, why are women more often necessity-based entrepreneurs? A lot of it has to do with taking care of children. What we know is that the prime age for starting a venture is between 25 and 44, which also is the prime age for bearing children. And what we also know is that often if the family is separated or broken, meaning the parents are divorced or something along those lines, the women have to find a way to provide for their children, especially in the less developed countries, and so they'll tend to be more necessity-based entrepreneurs. So that's a little bit about the GEM study. I know many of you probably aren't familiar with Parte College, so I wanted to show you a little bit about what it is. It's located out in a Boston suburb of Wellesley, Massachusetts. That's the campus. It is a business school, and our students are required to take a 50% liberal arts education. But again, we do primarily teach business. We have a known expertise in entrepreneurship. We've been rated #1 in entrepreneurship at both the undergraduate and MBA level for the last 14 years, ever since the U.S. News and World Report magazine started the survey. And we're recognized as #1 in entrepreneurship across a number of other publications. We are educating entrepreneurial leaders, and I'll come back to that in a second. But one of the things that we're most proud of is that we have an integrated curriculum, which means that students don't come and take finance course, and then a marketing course, and then an operations course. That course is all combined into one, and the students are taking different elements of that on different days of the week, with the same teacher in many cases. We have 1,700 undergraduates and about 1,600 graduates. 20% of our students are international, and we have many, many students from Mexico. So if you're thinking about an MBA at some point in the future, please consider ASP. I have to do that because they want me to make sure we get more tuition. And we were established in 1919. We've had a history of great entrepreneurs, including our founder, Roger Batson. And it's interesting how he founded Batson College. In 1917 or thereabouts, he took the train west of Boston as far as it would go. He then walked 3 more miles, and he bought up all the land that he could. That turns out to be one of the most expensive pieces of real estate in the country, as well as is often ranked as one of the top 10 richest towns in the country. So he's done very well for himself while he was alive. We also have graduated a lot of great entrepreneurs, including Daniel Gerber, who graduated in 1920, who was the founder of Gerber Baby Food Products. I know I grew up eating that. I suspect many of you in this room have also eaten that baby food. Today, that company still controls 75% of the baby food market. Then we had the Hamilton brothers, and they graduated in the 40s and 50s, and they became great oil explorers. They were responsible for finding some of the major oil finds in the North Sea and in Russia. And at one point, they were our richest alums. Then we had Dean Metropolis, who founded International Food, and this company created many of the brands that were familiar to us. He sold that company in 2002, I believe, for about $2 billion on average. Charles Bazikian graduated in the 50s as well, and he founded the Christmas Tree Stores, which is a retail chain in the New England area of about 16 stores that does quite a bit in sales. sold that company for $750 million to Home Goods a few years back. One of the things you'll find if you come to Babson is that we don't serve Coca-Cola. And the reason why is Roger Enrico, the longtime president and CEO of PepsiCo, is a Babson grad. And a funny story is he came to Babson one time for a speech, and somebody brought him a Coke, and that was a big no-no. And so ever since we have sold Pepsi products on our campus. Probably our most famous graduate is Arthur Plank, who is the founder of Home Depot. This company does about $60 billion a year in sales. He has 1,500 plus retail outlets, which is twice as much as its next competitor, Lowe's. He retired from Home Depot in 2002 or 2003, but has stayed busy in business. He is the owner of the Atlanta Falcons football team, and so he's not too happy these days because his star quarterback was thrown in jail for dogfighting. So he invested a lot of money in a guy named Michael Vick, who can't play for him for at least the next 2 years. Then we had Craig Benson, who graduated in the 70s, and he was the founder of a company called CableTown, which was one of the early internet infrastructure providers. And when this company went public in 1994 or so, it was the highest one-day rise in stock price. So this was prior to Netflix. Then we had Bob Davis, who was the founder of Lycos. And at one point in time when he was the CEO of Lycos, it was the #2 destination on the internet, just behind Yahoo. Of course, Google's come along and swamped that in these later years. And Bob Davis is now a venture capitalist at the Highland Venture Fund. And then we had Steve Spinelli, who was the founder of Jiffy Lube, which if you come to the United States and need to change the oil in your car, you're likely to go to Jiffy Lube, which does a quick oil change in 20 minutes or less. This company does $2 billion a year in revenue. When Steve retired from Jiffy Lube, he became a professor at Babson, and up until last year was our provost of entrepreneurship before he took the presidency at another university. So you can see that our graduates have done great things, and our graduates are still doing great things. And with the students, I talked about a few of our entrepreneurs who've come out of school over the last couple of years. So what I want to talk about now is, considering my audience, very well-educated people, how do you decide if you're an opportunity entrepreneur? Really, how do you decide if the idea you have floating in your mind is a great opportunity? And the way we think about it at Babson is, does it fit the 3 M's?